Yeah.
Start recording. All
Yeah,
right.
boy. There it is.
So it's gonna take a bit, but all right, cool. So we are up and running,
Replicate wireframe.
rocking, and let's.
Oh yeah, I've got. It's so like the things that make you excited in the world, right, are just
Uh
like so lame sometimes.
huh.
Like, yeah, that thing's awesome. I'm so glad I made that. Cube. Jeez, what did I even call that thing?
We even have some nice
Huh.
like Spotify background music going on.
Oh yeah. That's not copyright infringement, is
Fuck,
it?
I don't know. Maybe I should just turn that off. Bam. All right, it's gone. Bye bye Spotify.
Bye. Bye, Miss American Spotify.
All right, so everybody that might be tuning in to this later, we are here with Matthew Ragan, streaming live on Twitch,
Woo!
the one and only, and we're gonna
Jesus.
be just kind of shooting the stuff and talking TouchDesigner. So we figure
Talking
that
touch designer.
we figure that this is a good way of kind of catching up and at the same time contributing to the community. So yeah, awesome.
So yeah, here we go. Where do you want to start, dude?
Why don't you show me that barcode thing you were talking about?
Yeah, that's a great thing. Let me figure out where that is.
Yeah.
Because that is a really excellent question. Techniques, data, playback. Is that what this is? I don't think that's what that is.
Oh man,
This is what happens when you make things in the middle of the night. Oh, nope, that's not it. I wish that was
I
the right
have
place.
a very similar thing with my desktop right now. It's all named like GLSL test and GLSL particles, and there's just tons of TouchDesigner icons that are pretty
Yeah,
much meaningless at this point. I'm just
yeah, it's just like a mess of, oh yeah, no, this thing, no, this thing. What about this thing? Uh, I know I put it in Dropbox, so it's just a matter of figuring out,
yeah.
we'll do this.
Can you any chance you can share that with me? I bet you that might work a little better than screen share.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go
If
ahead
I
and sign in and see if I can track it down with my recent changes.
zoom around.
Um, Here, events, because that's probably the best way for me to track it down. Because I realized I did that like just the other day, but you know how this goes. Like you plow through an awful lot of material really quickly,
Oh yeah.
without even meaning to. Okay. Not that, not that, not that. So this came about, I guess it would be useful, like, give this a little bit of a frame. So Alex Olaszewski was kind enough to invite me to talk with his class, which was great. And we spent like a little bit of time. Well, Alex and I kind of spent some time talking about like, well, what does that mean and what's important to talk about? And his course is focused on experimental media systems
Okay.
and kind of like thinking about those as a structure. And the biggest kind of piece of that that's really interesting to Alex is encouraging students to kind of pull apart what it means when you are creating something for the first time, or kind of fussing about with the idea of what it is to make something that's unique or different, or how you make the world or think about the world.
Hmm.
And that's interesting to me, as those things always are interesting. And so I wanted to kind of throw together something that we could use as a kind of starting point to talk about, like, how do we frame some of those ideas, and what does that mean, right?
Hmm.
And how do we kind of like begin to think about our meaning making in that way? And so I kind of got like thinking about like, how do we encode ideas, or how do we kind of hold on to different ideas that are important to us? And I kind of like landed on this, like what happens when you encode pixel, or what happens when you encode language as pixels. That was kind of like the thing that was
Sure.
really curious to me. Um, really, I'm just stalling as I'm trying to find where I can put this like foolish thing. Uh, and so that kind of started me down this kind of, primrose path of thinking about how I wanted to encode something like text as pixels.
Okay.
Um, because I wondered, like, what does a sonnet look like when you kind of deconstruct it and kind of find an abstract form for expressing what that might mean or what that might look like.
Sure.
And that's where this kind of whole thing kind of like started as I started to really like get excited about it.
That's interesting.
So
That's interesting when you
yeah,
like apply the idea of CV behind that, right? Like pattern matching and CV. Like, what if you take all of a major Shakespeare work and then you make it into a barcode and then you apply some kind of CV filter to it to like find all of the patterns in it. That's kind of interesting.
exactly. And that was the kind of place where I started. All right, this year. It must have been the 7th or the 8th. I'm too far away, too far in the past um, to look for this thing. And so that's the kind of thing that I started like fussing with. And yeah, that's kind of the kind of idea that I was wrestling with a little bit when I was working on this thing.
Cool.
And let's see if this is it. New project 22. God knows what that is. Let's see. I don't know. This is a mystery file. Anything could be in here. Um,
There are some folders on my
oh,
desktop that are like
there it
that.
is.
Like I have a few import and like just some random files that I downloaded at some point. Like oh, Bullet Chop. I still haven't played around with
I
that. That
know.
looks
I
so
haven't played around with
interesting.
it either. I'm like dying to. And new project. Um, it came up on the forum today, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I've been meaning to do that." Um,
I downloaded it while I was in Austin. I just haven't gotten the time. Can you share that file with me?
yes,
Just so
absolutely. I found it.
wonderful.
I don't know where it is on my computer, but thankfully Dropbox found it, so I guess that's good enough for right now. I'm going to throw it in an email to Mr. Shalansky. Pixels. Bam. So this is what's kind of fun about this thing, and I wanted to also make this a kind of like piece of 3D work as well. And when we like look in this a little bit more, some of that'll make sense. You can see that, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. It's on
Cool.
my other screen though. Here, we can bring this up over here for the time being until I get the. All right, new project 22. Love it. All right.
Yeah, I should have given it a better name. So like kind of inside of this thing, right? The kind of beginning part of this is, and like I started down an even more kind of interesting path, and I'll talk about that in a second. But essentially, what I do is I've got a kind of set of scripts here that take the contents of whatever this thing is, right? Whatever text one is, and it spits it into this big long table, and it breaks it out so only one letter per line gets added to this table.
Okay.
And then we do like a little bit of eval magic over here. And the other step as I went through is I made another table with all the characters in the alphabet, uppercase, lowercase. I assigned them some arbitrary values just because I was kind of interested in getting something working first before I was making any meaning. And I shouldn't say they're totally arbitrary, because what I really did was I really looked at the input row modulated, right? Modus 26 plus 1 divided by 26. So that means that like the first return in that is its relationship to its 26th position. So like capital A is the lowest value, and then Z is the highest value, and then lowercase a and uppercase a.
Oh,
Right, so
see,
kind of like normalized.
I thought that you pulled Malcolm and you used the ASCII values.
I didn't. I thought about that, but I wasn't sure how deep down that rabbit hole I wanted to go
Oh man,
just yet.
that's a little it's scary. I did that. I did
Yeah.
that for that matrix thing, but we can actually show that in a little bit. But yeah, I didn't realize that you had done some magic to get those. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I did like a little bit of lookup there to figure out an RGBA value.
Up lookup, and you where is
Hmm.
that lookup
That's
coming
over
from?
here. It's eval 2 is where that happens, over to the left and down. So there's table 2 there
Ah,
is on your left-hand side.
mm-hmm.
That's all of those letters,
Sure.
and then below it is the expressions that get evaluated for the lookup. Mm.
Okay.
And
So
so I just started with
yeah,
this relationship inside of the table.
but these are just kind of generating arbitrary values.
Right.
Okay.
The next step I was going to start to look at was because the last thing that I implemented that I didn't have a chance to really like dig into because it was like 3 in the morning was there's a lovely method in Python that's called counter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the next thing I did was I looked at all of the occurrences of a letter and I put those into storage
Yeah.
with their counts. So another way the next thing to think about, I thought, was like, how do you relate color information to the occurrence of a particular letter,
Totally.
right? Because that could be another really interesting thing to think about. Is like, all right,
You should steal my scripting from Veterans Project and
oh
do
yeah,
the word count,
mm,
like whole words. Give a word a
totally,
color value. That would be
yes.
interesting. I think I
So
have that
that'll
somewhere.
nice.
I think it's with that Veterans Project Dropbox, so you probably still have it.
So one of the things that you would really enjoy here, that's like this is super nerdy, but if you look at eval 1, which is right next to the dat2 business, so to the left there. So what you'll notice is that table 5, so the expressions in there actually use a module on demand up above in text 3, and that's actually what's doing the search and return from the lookup table.
Huh. Okay. Forglyph in range. Oh, that's
So
interesting.
for every letter, it does a little like for loop to find itself,
Yeah.
which is not the most efficient way to do that.
Right, but if it's like a button click generate kind of deal, it doesn't need to
Yeah,
be, you know, that that kind of. Hmm.
exactly. And so then there are a couple of things this kind of spits out, right? So like if you look over kind of post-processing, if we look at the fit is just the barcode kind of
Mm-hmm.
like representation of that, which is a lot of fun,
Whoa. What's with all
right?
that
And
red? Where is that?
all the red. So you'll notice there's another lookup table over the left that's punctuation and spaces.
Oh, okay.
And so spaces are red. So
Gotcha.
anything that's got kind of some kind of weird or interesting kind of space used in it, it's got a bunch of red occurrence. So like I imagine that E. Cummings poetry would have like a ton of red space in it. Because I feel like punctuation was something that I wanted to kind of reserve as
Oh,
a value that could be
are
assigned.
these?
Yeah,
Is this
totally
tab
right.
or is this? Yeah, those are spaces. Okay.
So that's like really fun.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
it is, isn't it? Is this the text that's
yeah.
going in? Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Cool.
And then the
Interesting.
other piece of that was then to instance all of that along a line with cubes. And if you like run the little cross chop from index 0 to 1, then you'll see it kind of expand itself out. So you can see kind of just almost the barcode itself, right, smashed down with everything kind of compressed together. And then you can kind of explode it out a little bit. Yeah. Which is really like
I love that
effect.
effect. I love that the cross from line to square. It's one of my favorite effects to do.
And I also played with like really like punching that value a little bit, so like it really was like being in space, kind of like space cubes.
Space cubes.
And probably the right way to do this, right, would be to also script out the separation in the line so that its distance was a function of how many rows existed in the source text. But I didn't get there.
That's interesting.
Anyway, so if you want to see it run, right, so then the thing to do would be to like plug in one of these other pieces of text into text, yep. And then I think it's text2 that you run. And it will like, right, it has a small heart attack for a second. It's like, oh God, I have to do everything.
There we go.
And then everything, yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, it's the for loop in here, but
yeah, totally.
Just constantly iterating. And that'll give you
And
a
I
new
think
one,
there's like, there's like, much better ways to do that. But
nice. I love the paragraph breaks. That's just so cool. The
right,
kind of data you can get from it. That's neat. Like I get that the text is also spaced out like that, right? Like over here you can kind of see that text has the 4 lines break, but like I guess seeing it in color code is completely different. I don't know. That's really neat.
Yeah, like seeing how it's encoded is really interesting.
I wonder, like, there's got to be some like really interesting text that you can pull into there. Like, what if you did like contracts or legislation?
Yeah.
What's the kind of hidden? That's interesting.
Yeah, so like I feel like another thing to do, like one of the, like I was thinking about this the other day, and like something I want to like do is I'd love to do like a big fucking print, right? Like a wall-sized print that was I don't know, like every image was a paragraph or every image was a sentence, right? Like break it apart some way so that you take some well-known piece of text, but then encode the whole thing.
Okay.
So you've got like, I don't know, Genesis as a wall print or something crazy like that.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that'd be.
And like I'm not totally like happy with the kind of color schema yet, but for a kind of first draft.
Yeah, totally.
And experimenting with this idea of like, there are no limitations to how we create meaning. You're allowed to make it however you want.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a way to pull like a texture 3D into here some way, right? Like, what if this is shifting through time, or, that's interesting.
Oh man, do I have a texture 3D trick for you? That is like my favorite trick in the world.
I want to see this. Where you're pulling it through GLSL.
Yeah. Well, I've also like I cracked Malcolm's like secret how you load a texture 3D top method, and it's like just blown my mind in terms of thinking about how I hold on to textures and how I reuse them, and holy cow.
After we messaged back and forth today, I tried to think about how you would load up a bunch of images randomly and make an A/B switcher out of a 3D texture. I thought that was pretty neat. But unfortunately, I had to go to a meeting and I couldn't really think about it.
That's, them's the break sometimes.
That's the big problem with what we do, Matt. It's the man, I'm deep down this rabbit hole, but I really have to go do this thing now.
I really have got to go do this thing. I really actually have got to solve this other problem.
If I don't close my laptop now, I will be late for the rest of my meetings today.
Today, for the rest of my life, I'm gonna be late because I just need to dive in a little bit harder to this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I wonder, um, the where did I put that? I have a version of this that I can show somewhere, hopefully. Let's see. Miscellaneous. Oh, it's not in there. Is this it? I think this might be it. But like using those ASCII values might be really interesting for this as well.
Yeah.
Because then it's like you're not random, you're not like not arbitrarily assigning data, but you're like actually pulling it from, you know, the way that computer scientists think about the letters, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I don't know, it feels like there might be something there that you can play with, but there's a function in Python that allows you to do that. So for this matrix guy, right? Inside here, there is this text, right, which runs through, and this is like directly from the generative art one, right? But CHR, right, will give you the character of whatever number you feed it. So I'm just running like a speed chop to get all of those different characters in a row. But like it would be interesting to see the other direction of that. I think it's like ORD or something like that, ORD, which allows you to break a character out to its number.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then I think what that might allow you to do is like have a ramp and then a lookup, right? If you then normalize that number and look it up in a ramp, like you can have further control over like color of, I don't know, like further control of your color palette.
Yeah, I was thinking about like what's the right lookup method for that. How do you, like, where do you get started? I love that like these things always end up as this right, it's inevitably, I feel like we're constantly in the business of kind of like throwing out an idea really fast and then coming back to it and feeling like, okay, wait a minute, like that wasn't quite right. Like I really need to think about this a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. It's like this constant like, oh, that was a really good way I did that once, but now that I know.
Right, now that I know better, what would I do? So you're making a series of particles along, or you must be using a line and then doing a random order and then making particles out of that, and then using those as instance positions?
That's all it is. It's taking that texture 3D and then applying it at instance 2. You know, just look up W across W, right?
That's awesome. And then it looked like you had some more blobby kind of action going on there. Are you doing like?
It's just a cross actually in this text. So
clever.
It was like a really nice crossover effect that you can do where you'll like keep characters and letters at the same time, because that texture 3D doesn't fill out everything at once. So you have like this really nice dissolve fade into like this like poppy bokeh effect. Right, and then you can dissolve back where it's you know, they're replaced gradually over time instead of you know, a true dissolve. Yeah, and
that's awesome.
Like back at the texture 3D, right? You'll see that I move it too fast for it to catch up, right? So
totally. And then are those is that all in a single plane, or do those have any depth to them? Like, could you fly through that kind of matrix situation, or is it all in a single plane?
Oh, totally. I mean, it's all kind of instanced on a line, and they're falling particles, right? So as long as I take this camera and let me show you the actual raster, right? Take this camera, you can fly right through it, right? Woo!
Oh, that's awesome. Right. So you could set up like a bunch of particle systems and in depth, and you can just like drift through this thing.
Oh yeah, you can like just travel right through the matrix, man.
Love it. Oh my God.
Yeah,
We're back in the 90s. It's time.
it's so good. It's so good. This was way too much fun to make.
It's funny, like the simplest things are in some ways the most gratifying. It's like, oh yeah, this
Yes.
is awesome. I love this.
Yeah, the amount of time that I've just spent tweaking feedback effects to look just right.
The feedback is its own rabbit hole that you can just fall into forever and ever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
It's just like it's too delicious to fall deep into that thing.
Oh yeah. Man.
All right, cool. So let me show you this. So I guess there are two pieces to this GLSL
Oh yeah. Let me
business.
find that email.
Oh my God. Someday I will be better at GLSL. Right now I just feel like I'm on my sea legs still.
Ribbons or GLSL blend?
GLSL blend, that's really the fun thing. I mean, ribbons is out of control. That's like one of those things that's so pretty, you're angry.
I'm gonna be mad.
Oh yeah. Good. All right. Awesome. It should be all broken for a second. And so what you're going to do here, you're going to love this. This is super fun. So if you run that timer, you'll see the timer fill up that texture 3D with characters. It's like the most gratifying thing. And in exactly the right order that you want them in.
Okay.
Okay, so like if you check out that kind of like trick in the callbacks, that's actually it's a great trick because you can also do it with like a folder dat or anything like that, right? If you're feeding it like a new file in. So essentially,
it's way easier than like trying to sync up the texture 3D by like
exactly
now.
Right, exactly, dude. The other really fun thing about that is that because you're not leaving the texture 3D in an active state, it actually doesn't, it's not cooking.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So you load a bunch of things into memory,
and then it's just there. It's not.
Then it's just there.
You're not actually needing to. Wow. Okay.
So the place this came from was like wanting to be able to select, just like you can cache select, right? So you can cache select from a cache top, but I wanted to be able to do that with a texture 3D. Just like I can grab the W coordinate when I instance, I wanted to be able to do the same thing. And so here, the GLSL top, you can see like the little shader here is letting me use the depth coordinate in order to pull that out. And that's a function of 1 over the number of slices we have in this texture 3D. Okay. So the kind of 3 examples there have like 2 static positions. So you can see the uniform that's getting passed in is called slice. And then that's used to find this thing. So if you change that uniform number to like 2, 3, 4, whatever, you can see how that'll increment the slice position that you're in.
Sure.
So that way,
depth times 0.5. Now, so slice is a float, so it's going to be between 0 and 1. Yeah.
Correct.
Does so it ends up being 0 to 1 over a total depth which happens to be 100.
Right, and the total depth happens to be 100 because that's
the buffer up here.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. So the smart way to do this would be to like, figure out how many of these that you needed and then script them so that they would actually, have dependencies that relied on that original texture 3D. So when you change that thing, you wouldn't end up in some intermediary position. So what's interesting about the third example is we can see there that because that's a float value, by controlling how fast we're moving between that, we're actually interpolating between all of the slices.
Oh, Whoa, that's awesome. Because you
But
can then blend. Oh man, that
so
is
you'll
so much. Wow. Okay. So that means if I load up 100 images into that
uh-huh.
texture 3D, you can have an A/B fader. Well, not A/B specifically, but like you can fade through all of those and not have to reselect or anything like that. You can just have those
Yeah.
loaded.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And you can move between any two adjacent positions, right? So I can go forward a slice or backwards a slice,
That is really
right? And
killer.
my select doesn't cook because it's already full of everything that it
No, the
needs.
the only thing that your GPU is doing is this LFO, right? Like it's only calculating this number. The rest is passed right into your or your GPU. Your
Yeah.
CPU is only handling that. Wow.
Yeah. Right? Like how like I felt like my brain exploded.
Huh.
Because I did like this. The problem this was solving was that I had uh I'm like I've got a big photo kind of collage thing that I've kind of moved through. Um and I was loading all of the images first with a replicator, so I'd have a bunch of textures available, and then selecting and then A/B switching. But knowing that I can select, I could instead store that in a single 3D texture. And like in this case, I've run it through an HSV adjust, but like you could just as easily run it through a fit or any other kind of like, you know, post kind of like process effect that you want, so that you've got a consistent set of textures that are all the size that you want and all have a uniform kind of effect loaded on them.
Oh shoot.
And
You,
they're all held in memory for you already.
and the amazing thing about that is you can keep switching this out, right? Like you
And
can you
yeah,
can just go to the replace index that you want, feed in another image, right?
yep.
Move file in, like throw a banana into there if it's fit correctly. What is this?
I think there's 256 by 256.
Ugh. Right? Throw a
Right,
different
and you
image
can,
in there and then just
yeah,
replace that one, right?
yep,
So you can imagine like scripting that would be like, randomly throwing in images when you're not in that slot or moving to that slot.
right,
Huh.
exactly. Right, and then
Oh,
you're
go
releasing a bunch
faster.
of
I
like
want to see
load
that banana.
pressure. Right, you release a bunch of load pressure because you're only handling one image at a time, which is great. Um,
Go, go, go.
oh, get to
Yes!
the
That's awesome, dude. That's actually
banana!
really like if you're doing anything with static images, like that's perfect.
Yeah, right. So like that was one of those things today that felt like, it's like such a simple pixel shader, but creates a bunch of opportunities in terms of how you can start to think about holding a single
I
texture.
mean, honestly, I can use that with any of the Twitter stuff that I've been working on. Like I have a Facebook project that I have coming up that like
Hmm.
pulling photos from Facebook and just like as I get them, putting them into a new slot or a previous buffer slot that I'm not in. Like that's just killer.
Texture 3Ds are huge. You can hold something like, what was I reading today? Before I like say something that's
Sure.
totally crazy.
We'll run a fact check after the broadcast.
We'll run a fact check after the 3D texture article for more information. Okay, according to the 3D texture article, you can have very large 3D texture up to 2,048 layers on 8 series GeForce cards. Right, so I mean,
Per texture or just one big? I
so
imagine
per
that it's
3D
just.
texture,
Oh, okay.
right? So you could put 2,000 slices into that thing, 2,048 slices into that. And at uniform resolutions, I've like tried some experiments with putting different size resolutions into them, and that doesn't work, unfortunately. Um, but I mean, you can really start to fill that puppy up um, with a ton of slices, right? Like you could well run out of GPU space before you'd actually.
Right. I'm doing a minor test right now.
Mhm.
Chug 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 chug.
Tuk, 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 tuk.
I'll run out of images before I run.
Right? And especially having the ability to kind of like arbitrarily choose where in that stack you want to place them. Like all of a sudden you've got access to a bunch of stored textures that you can recall and get to really quickly and easily, and replace really easily as well.
Dang, dude, that's cool. Oh, you know what that helps with? That just
Everything.
well, everything. That also just solved a big problem for me with those GLSL particles.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to like really control like apply that to an A/B fader, right? Like I want them to go from this position to this position and then back over to this position. So like, you know, running like a back and forth between index 0 and index 1 of a 3D texture, and then replacing, you know, the bottom half with a different color.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So you could have these. You could use two of these GLSL tops, and then you could use that to select any. You can use those as your selects for your AB, right? So that you can grab anything out of that array.
Oh, man. You know, I knew about how cool 3D textures were, but they are just
Right. They just
every
got
single
cooler,
time
right?
I see them, they just blow my mind. And the other thing about that, maybe this is something I haven't tested yet. Can you reduce memory if you reduce cache size? Yeah, or does that stay?
Uh,
Yeah, it does.
I think it reduces because you actually are releasing that
Yeah,
memory.
if I turn off the active and move this, no.
Pro
Okay.
tip: so you've got to toggle active on and off to change the cache size.
Yeah. Hmm. Interesting. That might be another way to, like, depending on movies don't work that way though. Like I'm wondering if that's a way to get around having to reduce all of your textures to a single pixel.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Right? Like if you
Oh, yeah.
load up the entire movie into a texture 3D and then release it.
Oh, that's an interesting. Huh. I don't know.
But
I
you're
have
still
used this technique for instancing where like I put a different like make a movie where every frame is a new image, and then you can load the texture 3D with all of those images. So it's like if you think of it a movie container as or a movie as a container for images rather than as a sequence, then it's a way that you can input a large number of images all at once.
hmm.
And in fact, that's one of the things that I've thought about in terms of this kind of like larger, kind of like complicated image crossfading shenanigan. Is that you know, maybe a part of the process when you access like pipeline, right? Like pipeline is a big piece of what we have to spend time thinking
Yeah.
about. So like the user specifies a folder of images that they want to use, and behind the scenes what happens is that we take all of the images in that folder and then we create a movie where each frame in the movie is a different one of those images, and then I use that to actually load a texture 3D rather than loading each one of those images, because it's much faster to load one movie and then pull frames from it than loading a bunch of different images, right? Because I'm only decoding one file as opposed to decoding a bunch of different files.
Yeah. Hmm.
But that's that's an interesting kind of like
That's
thing to play with, especially when you
sure.
start to mess about with like, how are you feeding this thing, right?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden the time machine top makes a lot more sense, because the time machine is all about how you're interpolating between those different layers in a texture 3D.
Totally. Right. 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 Hmm. Because then, yeah, you can add like motion effects to time
Mm-hmm.
over frame. Yeah. Huh.
Right.
Dude,
So
cool.
that's a really juicy good one.
GLSL blend. Might
Yeah.
have to. Whew.
Right. And like another, like, it occurs to me the other thing to like probably like think about there is that probably what I'll end up doing um, in my own implementation is I'll just load this shader one place, right? It'll probably end up like in the root of a project somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and then each GLSL top that's using the same
We'll
shader will just
pull.
get pointed to that
Yeah, to
one.
these texts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Cool.
And then I'll save it externally and all that, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that guy's good and fun. So before we look at ribbons, here's the thing that I want to show you. Um, so bear with me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have an example to send to you, so you'll just have to watch this kind of like
Here, I'll bring it.
choppy
I'll bring
business
it
over
over.
here.
I'll bring it over here. Woo.
Um, so the blend, oh my God, the blend chop, this thing. The way this works is we've got an input channel, and we might have like chan 1, chan 2, chan 3. We've got to do like a little bit of work, right, to make this behave itself, and we're going to resample. Oh my goodness, this resample trick right here is like has saved my life. So, right, so imagine that I've got this thing and I want to like change it in a way. We'll see what this means. It's like so hard to explain. So I'm going to turn off time slicing. I'm going to give it a new rate and a new interval. I'm going to specify that this is absolute. And now I've got a multi-sample version of this thing over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, groovy. We'll see why that's important. All right, so I've got like a noise, and I've got a wave, not a warp, a wave. Ay, ay, ay. And let's use pattern. New things are cool.
New chops.
New chops, and we'll make that like a square wave, and we're going to make sure that all of these are the same length, right? 600 samples, 600, 600, and we'll just increase the number of cycles a little bit. Okay, great. So we'll plug all that business in over here, and then what we need to do for blend to work is that this guy needs to go in that top slot, so we're just going to bump him up to the top position here. Oh, goodness. We'll just reconnect it, since that'll be easier, evidently. Heavens. Okay. And then we might need to change this to make sure that it's samples. Right. Good. Let's 599 to make sure we've got the same number of samples. Okay, so what I can do now is I can specify with these inputs how I want to blend together, how I want to mix these three elements. So if I wanted to be like only the square wave, it could be only square, or I could be only wave, or I could be only noise. Or I might decide that I want to have this sine wave. I'm going to excuse me, turn down the period a little bit. Turn it up. Pardon me. Um, right, I might decide that I want this sine wave, but I want it to be like
A little
a
noisy.
little bit noisy. Right, exactly. And why are you... You should see that.
Uh,
There it is. Right, because it's at 1. We've got to like turn that down. Right, so it's like a little bit noisy. Or we might decide that we want it to be like a little bit blocky.
Square, yeah.
Right? So that you can
So
start to really start with how you're blending together those
so
things.
so so let's say your the number that went into your resample was not a static number all the way across. Let's say you made that a ramp from in channel 1 going from like, 7.5 to 2.5. What would that do?
Oh, I have no idea what that does.
Or like the
Uh,
square wave, would that taper it? I think it would, right? Because you have to have the same number of samples.
yeah. What would be the right way to do that?
Make a pattern ramp or wave ramp, right?
Right, let's get rid of this and let's put a pattern in here instead. And let's pick 3 channels. And what do you want the length at?
600, isn't that the regular? Isn't that what the samples are that you've?
That'll match.
Yeah.
We'll do this business instead.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it is, right? I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's matching the. You can, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick. Huh.
Okay, so with that in mind, now if you open up ribbons, and we can look at kind of like, what that does. Ribbons will. This is from Bryant Place. He is a magician in so many ways. It's like
Oh, this looks
goopy and
like
delicious.
some ribbons.
Remarkable.
Looks like
Um,
ribbons.
How did it?
Let's get rid of
Um,
this. Give me a second. TouchDesigner is loading up. Alright. Get rid of that because we don't need it. Oh my
It's
goodness.
buttery and smooth and lovely in every way.
That
But
is
if you head to
gorgeous.
the constant one that's over on the left above all your SOP2 scripts.
Let me just get rid of that weird background. Alright, cool. Above the SOP2s. Constant one. Cool.
All right, so like right click on that puppy and bring up the parameters for it. And then head back over to your render so you can see what it's actually going to do, right? Because that'll be what's fun about this thing. And so then if you start to play with how it's blending, right? The blend weights is really what this is doing. And you can see how it's really manipulating the blend weights that are coming in from the various SOP2s. Because in this case, I think what's happening over here is just, yep. So there's a box that's sorted and then it's transformed a bunch of different ways and then that's converted into chops. And then that's all resampled and then used as the blend information.
Sure.
Right, so then you've got lots of like, holy cow, do you have options in terms of what happens. And then there's another constant, right? So that's like blend version 1, and then constant number 4, which is like, that goes into another blend, and so then you've got a bunch of other blend options in terms of how you're making something really like square and chunky and other stuff.
Oh, that is pretty.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is something that I don't know a lot about that I need to. Cube maps.
Oh my goodness. Cube math, yeah, the reflectivity and blending in this is kind of like
Gorgeous.
so gorgeous.
Yeah, that's something
Beautiful in
that I
so
need
many
to know
ways.
about. That
Yeah.
I
It's like
need to play with. It's like just,
shiny.
there's so much. There's so much to play with, and not enough time to play with it.
Yeah. No, no joke.
Grad school. What are you doing to me? Oh, and that's a GLSL texture.
Uh-huh. That's actually, I think that's a derivative of one of the GLSL shaders that was up on the forum once upon a time that was like this car paint shader. That's like gorgeous and glittery and so shiny. And like right up your alley and well commented. Well done.
Yeah, seriously.
Who wrote this? Oh man. There's no
See,
name.
this is actually doing some of the this like really nice texturing is still black magic to me. I can make a shit ton of particles, but making something that is, you know,
But glossy candy.
oh man, I want that.
Vertex and pixel shading.
And that comes down to like stuff that I still need to figure out with GLSL is like camera movements and light, using lights and normal maps and stuff like that in there. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
I've dipped my toes, sir. I am nowhere near getting anything like that. But
We'll get there. Well, that's what I tell myself. We're gonna get there. It's gonna be fine.
It's fine. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, this is certainly one of those examples that you can just really like
Pick up
comb through and just feel like, oh my goodness, what is there in here to learn?
Totally.
Besides everything. Besides, I'll second guess everything I do.
Right.
Never mind. I should just give up.
Let's see. Recognizable parts of this network. No. What is he using a magnet for? I don't know. Oh man. Okay. I will just explore for days. What's going on in here?
That's, what else can
variables.
you do?
What are your variables? Because it's talks. It's talks variables. Okay.
What is this? What is this?
How do you go in here? What are you doing with the texture 3D? You controlling
storing all that
cool
noise.
I know it's good. I want it.
I need it.
I need it. What are you? Anyway. Cool, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one. Brian said to me the other day, he's like, if you learn one thing, you should learn the blend shop. Because if you master that, the universe is your oyster.
Right, because I mean you can start to like pull that stuff into GLSL, right? Like GLSL is all graphs anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you can break it down to like, map grapher or whatever those tools are that allow you to create those functions.
Yeah,
through
exactly.
the nice GUI and visual interface of touch, right?
Yeah.
Instead of
this video game of programming that we play.
Right. Oh man, it's so funny. It still gets me that emerge media wall where there's this huge screen of mediated content and it's all moving and dynamic, and the thing that the people are most interested in are the screen that I'm just kind of zooming around in, right? What is that?
What is that? What are you doing over there?
What is that, a video game?
I want that.
I don't even know what that is, and I want it. Like, just...
Well,
oh man, that's good.
Story of our lives, right? Story of our lives. I don't even know, but I need it. Oh God,
I want it. I want it to look good. So, Yeah, that's awesome. Let's. What did you do in that beneath folder?
Oh boy. Oh
Yeah,
boy, golly, are you
I got a
gonna...
poll. Hold on. I got a poll. So for the viewers at home, Matt and I are working on a project known as Beneath, which is happening in this awesome space on ASU campus uh, called the Marston Exploration Theater. Yeah, the Marston Exploration Theater, which has a stereoscopic projection setup. It's the one of the world's um, premier flat screen planetariums that works in 3D. So all the viewers go in, they get nice 3D glasses. And sync failed. Syncing would overwrite your uncommitted changes. Yes, just go ahead and overwrite them. I don't care. What haven't I committed? You pulled? When did,
I did pull.
what did I change? Oh, I changed. I fixed some stuff, but it's stuff that I can go back and fix again. Um, I fixed some problems that we were having, but it's good. I will discard these changes. Discard changes. Discard the changes. Sync it up.
Sync it up. Hit me. Give me all the things. Yeah, well, so one of the things that I've done, sorry everyone at home, there's some shop talk here. So I added a folder called extensions, and I've started to move all of the extensions for anything externally.
Oh, great.
So that's one thing that's happened.
GitHub or Git in general workflow syncs really well with TouchDesigner. I recommend using it. I'm still getting to know Git a little better, but it's so far it's been a fantastic resource for collaboration over long distances. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah. When you fire this thing up, you'll see a bunch of errors, and they should be fixed. Well, we'll see. It appears like it's misbehaving, but everything would seem to indicate once you look at the actual operators that they're not. So I think this is fixed. We'll see. Heaven help us.
The other thing. Here we go. All right. Woo!
Oh, good. Everything's
Okay.
broken.
All of it.
Dear. Why is that all broken?
Network with errors inside. Display key error. Display. Oh, fetch local IP.
Oh, it's because your
Yeah,
IP probably isn't in there.
Yeah, I have a different IP than you probably. Let's see.
Yeah. We should just add your machine to that config table.
Oh. Something else that's broken.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Yeah. Let's just throw this right there. We'll just do that and then rerun the startup, which is JSON store. This one.
The one to run is startup. Yeah, just start, because that will actually.
Bam. Everything's initted. That's still broken for some reason, but with any luck, nope. Oh, it's errors inside the network.
Oh, good.
Good. All right.
Oh, why do you have those errors and I don't have those errors?
Maybe because I'm not updated.
Oh, interesting. Maybe.
Oh.
Huh.
Something in here. What's in here?
So it should be deep down. Oh, you're gonna love this. Oh,
Yeah.
why is that? Okay, so check this bad boy out.
This must be integers, not string.
Integers, not string.
So I wonder if it just loaded wrong. Parameter font, GUI stack. Where does this lives? All of our font stuff.
If you look at font, or color, excuse me, you'll see
Shoot,
now that
fetch UI element state. I love that
right?
expression. Oh my god, that's so great.
Yeah. Um,
Well, let's go. Let's go look. Um,
it's weird. So I guess it well certainly is something wrong with UI because it didn't get put into storage. Um, because there was an error there. That's really strange though. Oh bother. Oh good. We get to do some debugging
Yay!
for the record. Oh dear. Oh
Oh
grumble.
man,
Look at all that pretty print though over on the
I know
right.
it's
That's
so
nice.
good. It's so good.
I like
Well
that.
done. All right, yeah. I think there's something up here. File not found.
Ah,
That would
okay.
explain it. Um, let's pulse that. Okay, so it's not actually.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
oh,
Check it
oh, oh,
out.
this is a
Yep,
local.
totally.
We
So
gotta
if you
grab this
just
from project folder instead.
yeah, exactly.
Project dot folder
And actually, you shouldn't have to
plus.
do project.folder because it should. Oh, look at that. Ugh. Just get rid of everything but data. If
Uh,
it's data
oh yeah.
UI.json,
Okay.
it should be
Data
smart enough.
UI dot JSON. Yeah, pulse.
There it goes. And then rerun start.
There. All right.
Look at
We
that.
fixed everything. Let's dive back into GUI.
And you can see over on the right, even in your GUI, how all the buttons have. Oh, well, they went away.
Sorry.
Um,
I.
oh, this is a weird error. If you like disable and re-enable, error should go away.
Which one? Sorry.
Right on your, yeah, that guy. Just like, yep, and then turn it back on.
That is a weird error. Where's that from?
Oh, Jesus, I don't know. We've chased that dragon so many places in the universe. Ugh. Right, so the fun thing is that that's, right, there's no table that looks up that color information
Right.
anymore.
It's
That is
just.
entirely pulled from storage.
So, and that's happening just by looking up state in font. Yeah. Okay.
So
Interesting.
RGB are lists in storage, and so their list position functions the same way that the table position would have
Mm-hmm.
in terms of responding to state. Right, so when state's 0, it's in the 0 position of the list. When you move to 1, it's the 1 position of the list, etc., etc.
Sure. So,
So it's
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah,
I understand. Um, the yeah, that's good. For the people at home, or at office, I don't know where you're watching this, but if you're at office, you should probably be working. Actually, probably not. I don't know. I watch streams in my office all the time. Anyway, beside the point, all of what Matt and I are trying to do here in this UI, don't mind me zooming around. We're trying to externalize all of our kind of config setup to be a text document, so that we can have more precise version control over what's going on, right? So all of UI is brought in as a JSON document, JSON being a JavaScript object, and we parse that with a special Python module. Well, it's not that special, but we parse that with a Python module that loads it into storage, right? So import JSON and then JSON.loads will take a JSON object, so something that looks like this, and make it into a Python dictionary. And then we store that Python dictionary as a name that we can then call up anywhere in the program. Which means if we make any edits to this file externally that lives in a shared folder, it'll update the entire GUI with the correct information. So those buttons were
yep.
green, but if we wanted to change them to red or a different color, all we would do outside of TouchDesigner is find the file in our program folder. So in data, right? Find the UI.json and open that bad boy up. Edit these numbers, which correspond. Reload the program, and it auto updates. Right? And the great thing about that is that that's editable in Git. It's also something that we can easily merge files with, like the text we can pick and choose which one we want from Git. It isn't a binary file, which is not something that you can edit in the GitHub or Git world. Anyway,
it also,
long story
yeah, well, it also exists as versions, right? So like we can create, like we were talking about earlier, you can create style sheets that exist for different UIs, and it becomes really easy to kind of customize elements
from one to another. Yeah. So
yeah,
if we needed a show that had different color sliders, or used different IPs, or needed to load up different toxes, we could do that. Did you did, didn't you? You changed that around. Groups.
Which
height, width. There was something there that I did.
Oh, yeah, there might be something that's...
My size multiplier offset.
Oh, I think I just merged it in with the other stuff. So the one thing that was like, I think that's still there.
Yeah, okay. That exists in containers, though, of UI. Okay. Cool. I mean,
and like I know a bunch of that stuff is still gonna like move around a little bit.
It's something that I'd like to implement in a way, though, like where, let's say, like this kind of setup, right? Like the stack on the side, the preview window, and then like these header, footer, and then a quick menu, right? Let's say we wanted hot swap modules in them, right? Doing that through JSON as well.
Yeah.
So like you have a kind of theme set up for your GUI, right? That you can just, I need a list here and a preview window here, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other really fun thing is that those, I mean, if you create the same storage keys inside of a module that's, you know, deep down someplace else, it'll overwrite what's in the parent. So like all of that storage information is stored in the root directory, which means it can be overwritten as soon as you add the same keys in another component.
Right.
So you can have variation even within. But if the keys went away, it would just go back to the default colors.
Yeah.
So if you really want to, so there's another fun thing to look at in here. So if you look in Node, in Scenes, in Shadow Box.
Oh, in Scenes, not channel 1, channel 2. Shadow Box.
This is fun. So this is
Why did I just drop down to 15? What's going on in here, Matt?
All the things are going on in here.
What is happening? Why does it hate me?
Yeah, it's going to be grumpy, probably. So this is our 16 instanced layers.
Oh. So it's 16, well, it's 32 videos loaded in, yeah?
Yeah, and if you look in textures, you'll see that we've got 16 movie players, and if you look in movie player, you'll see all that going on. But the thing that you're going to really love is that if you look inside of textures...
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Who are you telling? Inside of any one of those movie players, you'll notice over on the left-hand side there's a DAC called reset. Right, so all of those values get thrown into storage for the movie player as default values. And then if you look over the class, movie player class, you'll notice that there's now 3 new methods. There's reset hue, reset level, and reset post process, which then grab the things out of storage and use that to reset the post-process effects inside of each individual layer.
Oh, that's really killer. That's going to be super helpful in building the GUI for programming that.
Yeah.
Actually, these is there any way that in the class we can make a we can make those variables live in class? So like I can call movie player layer 1 dot interswitcher dot HSV and feed it a value.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Like
why not, right?
you should be able to set variables for a class, correct?
Yeah. I guess I hadn't dug into the right way to do that yet, so I just stuck them there at the header
Sure.
because I knew that way they're initialized when we initialize the class.
But like that way in the GUI, oh my god, why do I need to really pick up the U and I buttons. I just like flying too much, I think.
Flying is a lot of fun.
But like in the GUI, when you switch over to the programmer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like per layer having those fields available, and when those fields change, it automatically updates the variable. Like I can just call that field change as a dat execute, right?
Yeah.
To the movie player that I'm changing.
Yeah. What I was playing with before the last time around was that all of those things lived in storage, so they were instantly available. And I suppose they do still live in storage, right? They just live in queues. So I think, oh, sorry, that's like a whole different kind of like tangent. But I think you're right. I think the right thing to do is to figure out how to get those variables into the class the right way, whatever that looks like.
Whatever right way means, right?
Whatever, we should pick a way. Should like place a bet and
But
see what happens.
they do exist. They do exist in storage, which means I could just store them in this movie player layer. Huh. Would you?
Yeah, I mean,
well, like, yeah, right. Like, I'm thinking, is there any reason to have them actually in these definitions anywhere?
Well, I don't see. I've wrestled with that because I kept them out of the definitions because it felt like those variables were universal to any definition, right? So rather than declaring it when you,
What? Sorry, not definition. Class variable. Like, would there be any use in making them a class variable, instead of pulling them from the fetched?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think the only place where it feels like those things live better as storage than as class variables would be if we find ourselves in a circumstance where we realize that something about far layers or near layers require different reset values.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's the only reason I let them live there right now is like what happens if we need some variation in what reset means.
Okay.
But who knows if that's actually going to be important or not.
Right. Huh.
Yeah, I don't mean.
Well, like, I'm just trying to like wrap my head around if there would ever be a cause to do that, right? Like maybe outside of this show, but like, what if there was? I don't know. It's
Yeah, I mean, I think
pretty
I think
though,
the. For me, one of the things I was thinking about was like
3 o'clock in the morning, right there. Is that what the Sturo?
Oops. Sturrow movie. Um, Shiza. Oops. Fix that. Oh, Jesus. Uh,
It's twice. That's
I know.
awesome.
Well, at least it's consistent, right? Um,
Oh, that just automatically goes. All right, cool,
yeah. It's great, isn't it?
cool.
Um, I think the only reason that it might be useful to have them external from the class would be if you found yourself in a show that had some kind of thematic style to how you were building a set of cues. Like if you knew that everything was going to be like there was a show that was noir based, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everything was going to be desaturated and was going to vary from that in some way. But you have another show, so you'd want to have like reset the layer means restore it back to just kind of like a plain black and white rather than restore it back to color. And you wanted to have some like specificity for that per production rather than in the UI in general. But I don't know, right? Like I
Hmm.
can't think that far ahead right now
Yeah,
about that.
I can't either. Or if they were like, well, I don't know. I can't think right now whether Python variables are private or not. Like I know that you can set
Mm.
them externally of the class, but can you access them from another class? Right? Like if I
Oh,
want to
yeah, I
know
don't know.
if class red ball, what color, you know, or how many
Ooh,
bounces it had, right? Like, can I
yeah.
access that from class car?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I guess suppose that would be a good reason is that way, every layer could have a different reset parameter that you could access from any other layer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, if you wanted to build reset as a kind of gradient of change over all the layers, you could know your relationship to 3 or 4 layers away from you.
Yeah. Right. Like that
But
would be, I mean, my justification anyway. Uh, quick ask. What's your CPU memory right now in this file?
1,668 megabytes.
What?
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
absurd.
I
You're
know.
in 64-bit though, yeah.
I am.
What am I loaded in? I'm loaded in 32, so that makes sense. I'm at half memory.
Yeah, I'm 1.6 gigs of memory is my load right now. 23% of my GPU memory.
And it's still climbing?
Uh,
Or
we
has it
we
stabilized?
oscillate. We're mostly 1669 right now.
1.6 gigs.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're using 25% of your GPU.
Yeah.
Are you on your laptop or are you on?
No, I'm on my server.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so one consideration that we'll have to kind of think about
I'm at
is,
half my GPU. Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, is how we make sure, because we'll want to build in some kind of either fit or some other element that will allow uh, the UI to still be able to dynamically visualize what a queue looks like, but find a way to reduce the kind of memory strain that we're likely to encounter.
Wow. That's
I mean, to be fair, I mean that's
bonkers.
yeah.
I mean, you're up. You're. I wonder if this might be a place for. Do you think the GLSO would help in this and all?
I don't. That's a great question. I don't know, right? Because this is really about. I mean, realistically, that's going to be 2 different files for every layer, and those might be movies or they might be images. and we're not
Oh,
going to be able
totally.
to
That's gonna
consistently
be
predict which one it
which
is.
one? Yeah. Hmm.
Right. We should also, I mean, another thing that to think about here is how we script in that audio device, or it's what audio movie chop, um, because that should really be disabled. I mean, in practice, probably only one of those in any given queue should be active at any given time. So we've got to figure out the right way to like pass in. And I think that's inside of the queue is that we specify whether or not it has audio.
Are you just gonna touch that out to Steve?
I think the way that Steve wants to receive that is he actually wants us to do um, a go out to an actual interface, and then he's going to capture from the interface.
Ah, that makes sense. I wonder if there's any delay we have to put in for the
I
latency.
Yeah, I don't know. We shouldn't have to because we'll be driving it. The question is, does the audio come off of the audio should probably come off of the rendering machine, the master controller. I don't know. That's a question we'll have to try and figure out. Whoever has the lighter CPU load is probably who should play back the audio.
Sure. Oh man. What's your GPU? 980, 970?
980.
Oh man. All right. Well, I thought that was gonna be the card, but I don't know.
980 Ti. That's a new one. It's sassy.
I don't know. Oh man, maybe I should save up a bit more and just go with the workstation card.
It's hard. I mean, the GeForce cards are faster, but you don't have any of the benefits of ganging cards together.
That's really what I want though. Like uh, I want to make the investment for the Quadro just so I can have that Quadro sync, right?
Yeah.
Like eventually.
hmm So you can have, yeah, because then you run your interface with one card and you run your outputs with another card, and life is good. But, you know, we all want things.
we all want things.
Right, and then ultimately, like, right, there's like so many moving pieces to all of that.
Yeah. Um. Question.
Yeah.
Uh. Do you think that it would be
Heartbeats.
heartbeats? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Heartbeats
I don't know.
or just have a touch, make sure that everything's connected with touch in, touch out, right? And then just read from there.
That's a really excellent, one of the problems that we've kind of wrestled with is what's the right amount of network traffic to add to make sure that you know what's going on.
Also,
And
other question.
yeah.
Is there any other information that we would need? I mean,
Uh,
because I have written on here FPS, so like that can act as our heartbeat for the system, right?
yeah.
Like, oh, that computer's connected because we're reading an FPS.
Yeah, probably FPS. I think I'm less interested in FPS. I mean, it is nice to know what the frame rate is. I mean, that's not.
It's just a good indicator for the performance. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a really. I mean, we can easily replace that with cook time or what have you. Uh, you know.
Yeah, the more interesting thing to me would be errors.
Oh,
Because the error DAT would spit out any errors that were in a network, and then you could pass those over as strings. In fact, have you, in dialogues, have you looked at the errors dialog? Because I'm about to blow your mind, son. This is the whole thing that exists.
log errors. Oh, oh my. I have no connection to any hosts ever. Wow. Oh, I dig this.
Fun fact, you can dismiss there's several different scripting methods to either set warnings, set errors, and dismiss warnings. There's also, you'll like this one, that bad boy runs on the error dat. And you'll see when you fire up the error dat, well, it's going to tell you that you're not connected to anything in the world, of course. But it also gives you all sorts of information like the frame, the absolute frame, the severity, what's producing it, where it's coming from.
Oh, that's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, error logging, that's interesting.
Yes, exactly. So you can build like a little error logging utility to like when you've got an installation that's up and running and you want to be able to check in on what it's doing and you don't want to actually VNC into the machine, you want to just actually read a log file.
I like that. I like that. And if it has like the same kind of this is one of my favorite animations to do. That right there.
Yeah.
Thump.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So good.
Like having like a nice little everything slides up and out.
Mm-hmm.
Or figuring out a nice little like, let's check on our errors and click on a like one of these guys up here. Like one of these macro buttons up there. I need to see all of my errors.
Show them to me.
Show them.
Yeah. Yeah, man. All right, I think I might be approaching that hour.
Yeah, I have to get up and teach class in the morning, so it's gonna suck. No, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be amazing. It's just gonna be really early.
It will just be early. But, I mean, boy golly, did we look at some fun things.
Yeah, I think we should make this a thing. This has been a lot of fun. And
yeah.
Learning resource for both of us too, I guess. So
Yeah.
Here's a question, which is maybe a little meta for the broadcast, but is this something that we should cut together or just post the entire freaking thing, right? Like just cut the most interesting bits, or I mean, we've what is this recording at right now? This is an hour and a half.
Well, I mean, I think the right thing to do is to do both.
Oh no.
Is to like just leave up the whole thing as an archive. And then when there's time, cut together like a highlights.
Sure.
That's the lazy man's way of handling the problem. It's like, it's up there if you want to watch for an hour and a half. Your two guys just ramble.
But is this something that, like, I mean, we could make this into a nice like video blog or like video podcast of TouchDesigner programming radio hour, like.
Yeah, no kidding. We should have just like done this the whole time with Beneath.
I know.
And then we would have had it.
And then everybody else would have had it too, which
That's
is
true.
Awesome.
There is that.
Everybody needs Beneath. Everybody needs a little Beneath in their life.
A little bit beneath this and a little beneath that.
That's right.
I guess my answer is that should entirely depend on the amount of additional bandwidth you have to dedicate towards cutting it.
None. So
that's how much I have.
That's none. That is none. All right.
So there you go. That's my answer.
Perfect. So I guess everybody's going to be hearing this part of the broadcast. That's awesome. Cool. Anyway, it's been great. We should find a time to do this again.
Yeah, dude.
All right.
You said it.
Cool. Well, Have a good night. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, we'll both be up and at it early.
Woo!
All right. Later, sir.
See ya.